The Sun-Engine of Athelion. Gratitude that arrived before it was received. Sera had learned to read numbers before she learned to read faces. The old scholars of Athelion said that was a blessing. The younger students said it meant you were lonely. At dawn, she climbed the spiral steps of the Sky Library and stepped onto the terrace where the city's horizon was a clean arc of pale gold. Below her, Athelion spread like a living circuit. White stone roads, copper canals, glass domes that caught sunlight and broke it into soft rainbows. Above it all, the Sun-Engine floated, held aloft by fields the elders called harmonics, as if the air itself could be tuned like a string. The Sun-Engine was Athelion's heart. It fed warmth into the canals, powered the silent lifts, and kept the city gardens green even when the world beyond the walls turned brittle and brown. And now the engine was dimming. It didn't fail all at once. It sighed. It flickered. It grew tired at noon. Sera knew why. The city's harmonic towers, tall spires capped with crystal crowns, needed a steady tone from the people. The Resonance Guild called it the civic vibration. In plain language, it meant the city worked best when its people felt good, steady, hopeful, appreciative, certain. When fear spread, the towers fell out of tune and the engine lost lift. Sera had watched the change happen in slow motion for months. When the outer farms failed and caravans arrived thin and hungry, the marketplace had stopped singing. The laughter in the bath halls had thinned. The old gratitude rituals, small daily acknowledgements, had become rare and hurried, like something childish you did when times were easy. Now, every day, the Council of 12 met beneath the engine and argued about how to fix a problem that felt invisible. They wanted more copper, more crystal, more labour, more enforcement, more doing. Sera's mentor, Master Oren, wanted something else entirely. "Your hands are clever," he told her on the terrace, his robe snapping lightly in the wind. "But your clever hands aren't what will lift the engine, not by themselves." Sera stared at the hovering sphere above the city, its golden shell striped with faint lines of blue light. "Then what will?" she asked. Oren smiled in the way elders do when they see you stepping toward the edge of your own understanding. "Receiving," he said. Sera made a small sound of frustration before she could stop it. "Receiving is not a plan." "It's the only plan," he said gently. "The rest is scrambling." He led her back down into the Sky Library, into a chamber that most apprentices never saw. Its walls were covered in thin sheets of polished black stone, etched with diagrams, loops and spirals, and cycles that looked like water currents drawn by someone who had never seen a river. In the centre of the room sat a bowl of clear water, perfectly still, as if the air had agreed to hold its breath. "This is the chamber of preform," Oren said, "where we practice experiencing what is real before it looks real." Sera's jaw tightened. She had heard rumours of the chamber. People whispered about it, like it was a religious thing, or a childish trick, or a dangerous delusion. Oren knelt by the bowl and gestured for her to do the same. "Tell me what you want for the city," he said. Sera didn't have to think. The answer lived in her chest like a bird that beat its wings every time she saw the cracked outer fields. "Rain," she said. "A stable pattern. Not luck. Not a storm that floods. Real rain, on schedule, like the ancients wrote about. Oren nodded. Good. And why do you want it? So the farms recover, she said. So people stop looking at each other like enemies. So the towers stabilize. So the engine stops dimming. Oren's eyes softened. Now, he said, tell me how you feel when you think about not having it. Sera swallowed. Tight, she admitted. Angry, worried. And how do you feel when you imagine it has already arrived? He asked. Sera tried. She pictured the brown outer land darkening, moisture soaking in, seedlings lifting their heads. She pictured the market swelling with produce, laughter returning. For a heartbeat, something warm rose in her chest. Then her mind snapped back to the present. Empty granaries, anxious faces, the Sun-Engine sighing at noon. The warmth fell away like a dropped stone. I can't hold it, she said through her teeth. It feels fake. Oren looked pleased, as if she'd answered correctly. Good, he said. That's the exact place everyone stops. They say, it's fake. They say, it's not here. And then they broadcast absence lack until lack is all they can receive. He dipped 2 fingers into the bowl. The water trembled in rings. Look, he said. Is the wave real? Sera frowned. Yes, but can you hold it? He asked. No. Does it still move the whole bowl? Oren asked, voice quiet. Sera watched the rings spread, touch the edges, rebound, and come back. The bowl never spilled, never panicked. It simply responded. Yes, she whispered. Oren leaned closer. That's vibrational reality, he said. It's real because it's felt. It moves things because it's frequency. When you hold gratitude as if it's already done, you become the wave that the law responds to. Sera's throat tightened. But gratitude is supposed to be for what you have, she said, not for what you wish you had. Oren's mouth quirked. That's the misunderstanding that keeps people hungry, he said. Gratitude is the feeling of having. It doesn't care whether the thing is in your hands or on its way. He stood and crossed to a shelf of small objects, tools, crystals, a brass spool of wire, a folded paper package sealed with wax. He lifted the sealed package and held it out. Do you know what's inside? He asked. Sera shook her head. I ordered it from the northern makers, he said. It will arrive tomorrow. Tell me, do I own it? Sera blinked. Not until it's here. Oren's eyes gleamed. That's physical thinking, he said. Now tell me again. I ordered it. It's been made. It has my name on it. It is travelling. Do I own it? Sera hesitated. She pictured the maker's workshop, the stamp of Oren's seal, the item wrapped and placed into a courier's satchel. Something about that felt done. Yes, she said slowly. You own it. It's just not delivered. Oren nodded once, like a judge sealing a verdict. Exactly, he said. So why would you act like it isn't yours? Why would you complain, worry, grasp, and doubt? You'd be saying you don't trust the delivery. Sera's pulse thudded. She understood the logic, but her feelings still ran their own current. Oren returned the package to the shelf. Your reign has been ordered, he said. Your desire has already been established as a vibrational reality. The only thing left is delivery time. Gratitude is how you live, like the order is real. Sera looked down at the bowl of water. The ripples had vanished. The surface was glass again, as if nothing had happened. "But the city is afraid," she said, "and the towers respond to all of us." Oren's voice grew firmer. "Then you become the tuning fork," he said. "One steady tone can pull an instrument back into harmony. You don't match fear to fix fear. You match what you want." The first time Sera tried the practice, she failed in under 10 breaths. She went to the outer wall where you could see the fields. The soil beyond the city looked like cracked pottery. A wind moved dust in thin sheets. Even the trees stood with their branches angled inward as if to conserve themselves. Sera closed her eyes and tried to feel gratitude for rain as if it had already come. Her mind immediately shouted, "It hasn't. Look, smell the dust, hear the emptiness." Her chest tightened. She felt foolish. She felt angry at herself for feeling foolish. She felt the familiar downward slide, frustration into worry, into that quiet dread that sat behind the eyes. When she opened her eyes, the fields looked worse than before. She returned to Oren and confessed it, expecting disappointment. He chuckled softly. "You try to lift a stone with a newborn muscle," he said. "You wouldn't judge your arm for shaking." Sera crossed her arms. "So what do I do?" "You strengthen the gratitude muscle," he said. "Small weights, daily." He gave her a simple assignment for 7 days. Each morning, before she spoke to anyone, she would write down 3 things she was genuinely grateful for. Small, real things that already existed. Clean water in the canal, a warm loaf in the market, the way the terrace caught sunrise. And then, after the 3, she would write one thing that hadn't arrived yet, and she would write gratitude for it, as if it had. Not pleading, not begging, not wishing. Having. "Your job is not to force belief," Oren told her. "Your job is to find the feeling that is believable enough to hold." So Sera began. Day 1, she wrote, "I'm grateful for the smooth stone steps because they hold my feet steady. I'm grateful for the library lamps because they never smoke. I'm grateful for the canal water because it keeps moving even when people don't." Then she stared at the last line for a long time. "I'm grateful for the rain that nourishes our fields. It felt too big, too distant. So she changed it. I'm grateful for the cool air that tells me moisture is near." That felt possible. When she imagined cool air, she could almost feel it on her skin. A small warmth flickered in her chest. Not joy exactly, but relief. Oren called that a win. Day 2, she wrote her 3 real gratitudes. Then she wrote, "I'm grateful for the smell of wet soil." She remembered it from childhood, how the world changed when the first drops fell. The memory carried a true sweetness, and she let it sit inside her for a few breaths. Day 3, I'm grateful for the steady rhythm of rain on rooftops. She imagined the sound, and it soothed something in her shoulders. Day 4, I'm grateful for the full granary doors that swing wide. This one made her laugh because it sounded absurd, but the laugh itself felt better than tightness, and she noticed that too. Day 5, I'm grateful for the farmer's smiles when seedlings rise. This time, she didn't have to force the image. It came easily, and her eyes stung unexpectedly. Day 6, She walked through the market after writing and noticed something she hadn't noticed in weeks. A fruit seller humming under his breath while arranging bruised apples as if they were treasure. Sera felt a surprising rush of appreciation for that humming. It wasn't rain, but it was a tone. Day 7. She woke before dawn, wrote her list, and when she reached the 4th line, she wrote it without flinching. I am grateful for the rain that has returned to Athelion, steady and kind. She read it twice. Her chest warmed, not as a spark, but as a small, steady flame. It felt like presence, like ownership, like the sealed package on Oren's shelf with her name on it. Then she heard a knock at her door. A council runner stood in the hall, breathless. "Apprentice Sera," he said. "The council requests you immediately." The council chamber sat beneath the Sun-Engine's lowest ring. The ceiling was open to the sky, so the elders could look up and remember the thing they were responsible for. Today, the engine's light lines were faint and uneven, like a tired heartbeat. Councillor Maylin, sharp-faced and sleepless, pointed at Sera. "Master Oren says you have a method," she snapped. "A way to stabilize the towers without ripping half the city apart for materials." Sera felt every eye on her. For a breath, fear surged hot and electric. She could feel how fear would pull her thoughts into absence. They'll laugh. It won't work. The fields will stay dry. The engine will fall. She remembered Oren's voice. You become the tuning fork. So she did something that surprised even herself. She placed her hand on her chest, breathed once, and silently reached for the feeling she'd practiced for 7 days. Not as a performance, not as a defense, as a simple inner choice. Gratitude, presence, having. The warmth returned, the tightness loosened. She felt steady. Out loud, she said, "The towers respond to tone. The tone doesn't come from forcing the city to act. It comes from what the city is broadcasting. If we want rain and stability, we need to broadcast the vibration of having it." Councillor Dren scoffed. "We can't eat vibration," he said. Sera looked at him calmly. "You can't eat fear either," she said. "But we've been eating that for months." A murmur ran through the chamber. Maylin narrowed her eyes. "And you expect us to feel grateful for rain that hasn't fallen?" she asked, as if Sera had suggested dancing on rooftops. "Yes," Sera said, voice quiet but clear, not pretending, not wishing, feeling it as real in advance, the way you'd feel about a shipment you already ordered. You don't have to know every step of delivery to own the order. Some of the elders shifted uncomfortably. The city had always been proud of its mechanics, its mathematics, its visible proof. Feeling first sounded like superstition to them. But then, something happened that Sera couldn't ignore. As she spoke, one of the harmonic towers outside the open chamber window gave a soft blue pulse, faint but clean. The pulse travelled up the crystal crown like a breath moving through glass. A few council members noticed and went still. Sera noticed too, and her gratitude flared, not because she was winning an argument, but because life had answered the vibration she was offering with a small physical echo. "The path," Oren would say. "A hint first. We can run an experiment," she said. "Not with speeches, with practice." That afternoon, Athelion gathered in the amphitheatre gardens. Not everyone came, but enough did. Farmers whose hands were cracked from dry soil, engineers whose brows were permanently furrowed, children who didn't yet know what scarcity meant except as a tension in their parents' voices. Sera stood on the central platform with Master Oren beside her. The Sun-Engine hovered overhead, dim but present, like an elder refusing to abandon the family. Oren did not give a long lecture. He simply said, "We are going to choose one feeling together, the feeling of having." Then he handed Sera a small crystal tuning rod. It was a simple tool, tap it, and it sang one pure note. Sera tapped it once. The note floated outward, clear and thin. "Close your eyes," she said, "and do not beg, do not plead, do not ask as if you don't have. We are going to appreciate rain as if it is already ours." A few people laughed nervously. Someone muttered, "This is ridiculous." Sera felt the old reflex to tighten, to defend. But she didn't. She reached inward instead, found the warm flame of her practiced gratitude, and let it fill her voice. "Think of the smell," she said. "The first breath when the dust settles. Think of the sound on roofs. Think of seedlings lifting. Feel thankful the way you would if you stepped outside tomorrow and it was already raining." The garden went quiet. Not perfectly, there were coughs, shifting feet, but the usual buzzing tension softened. Sera watched faces change in tiny ways. A farmer's jaw unclenched, a child's shoulders dropped, an engineer, eyes still closed, let out a long breath like he'd been holding it for weeks. The harmonic towers around the amphitheatre began to respond. Not dramatically, subtly. One tower's crystal crown shimmered, another released a gentle hum, like the city itself clearing its throat. Sera's heart pounded, and for a moment fear tried to rush in again. What if this is the only hum? What if nothing else happens? She recognized the feeling immediately, absence trying to reclaim her. So she did what Oren had trained her to do. She thanked right now, as if the delivery was already confirmed. "Thank you for the steady rain pattern returning. Thank you for the cool air. Thank you for the kindness of a gentle storm." The warmth in her chest steadied. The city's hum steadied with it, like two instruments finally agreeing on pitch. After the gathering, people didn't run home cheering. They drifted back into the city quietly, almost tenderly, as if they'd touched something fragile that might break if they shouted at it. That night, Sera climbed to the Sky Library terrace again. The fields were still dry, the air still carried dust. And yet, she felt different. She looked up at the Sun-Engine and whispered, "Thank you for staying." Then, without forcing it, "Thank you for the rain." A soft breeze passed over her skin, cooler than the afternoon wind. It was so slight, she could have imagined it. But she didn't argue with it. She appreciated it. In the hours before dawn, Sera woke to a sound that didn't belong to the dry season. A tapping, light at first, then steadier. She sat up, breath caught, and listened. Rain, not a roar, not a violent burst, a calm, persistent rhythm on the Sky Library roof, like a friend's hand knocking politely and refusing to leave. Sera stood and went to the window. The city's glass domes shone with wet sheen. Lantern light blurred into halos as water ran down the streets. People emerged into doorways, mouths open, palms out, laughing in disbelief. And then Sera noticed something else. The harmonic towers were singing clear, stable tones that blended into a single chord. The Sun-Engine brightened, the blue lines across its shell filling in like veins with fresh blood. It rose a few feet higher, not because someone hauled it up, but because the whole system had become lighter. Sera ran, barefoot, up the terrace steps and into the rain. The first drops were cold enough to make her gasp. Then she laughed, loud and wild, because it was real, and also because it had been real yesterday in her chest. She remembered the sealed package on Oren's shelf. She remembered the bowl of water rippling. She remembered how the hardest part hadn't been getting rain. It had been stopping herself from broadcasting absence. She lifted her face to the sky and let the water hit her cheeks. "Thank you," she said again and again, not as payment, not as bargaining, but as recognition of what gratitude truly was. Not a polite afterthought. A state of having, a way of being that made receiving natural. Behind her, Master Oren stepped onto the terrace, rain darkening his robe. He didn't look surprised. He looked satisfied. Sera turned to him, water dripping from her hair. "It worked," she said, voice shaking. Oren nodded. "You worked," he corrected gently. "You held the tone." Sera took a breath, feeling the truth settle into her bones. Gratitude wasn't something you performed when life finally proved itself to you. Gratitude was how you proved to life you were ready to receive. And the moment she truly felt it, truly held it, as now the city had begun to shift, one pulse, one hum, one cool breeze at a time, until the physical world had no choice but to match the tone she and so many others were finally willing to sustain. Sera closed her eyes in the rain and smiled. The delivery had arrived. And somehow, the best part was realizing it had been hers all along.